It's hustle on both ends. Like, you wanted to make it out of the hood and make money, you had to hustle. In the corporate world, same thing, you have to hustle. But also it's about relationships. Just like in Maryville or any poor community, you have gang, right? In the corporate world, you have a company you belong to. So you need those relationships. Gangs are bad, of course, but people join them because they want a sense of belonging and they want to feel protected, and because there's power in numbers, right? That's why nowadays we have masterminds, because there's power in numbers. Like, you're able to exchange ideas, and in a ways you protect yourself from outside events because you have that knowledge that you're sharing. It comes down to, again, hustle and relationships. I think that's what I learned, key factor in both of them, right?
Hey everybody, thank you for joining us for today's episode of Disruptors. Today we have Vic Heredia with Home Offers America and Quality Skip, and Vic is back again, another disruptor in the Phoenix market, and today we're going to talk about how he went from selling bananas in Mexico to selling portfolios to hedge funds. Now guys, I'm on a mission to create 100 millionaires. The information on this show alone is enough to help you become a millionaire in the next 5 to 7 years. You'll take consistent action, you will become one. If you get value out of the show, please hit that subscribe button. That way we can all grow together. You ready?
I'm ready. Let's do this.
All right. So you were here. I was looking at the notes 2 years ago.
Yeah, it was 2 years ago. Yeah, that's
August of 22. You guys want to go watch, right, in the archives at the that late night
It was
TV
a late
show
night vibe. It was a cool
setup,
vibe. Yeah,
right?
I felt like a celebrity.
Yeah. Well, you still are.
Oh, well,
You still
I don't
are.
know about that much.
Right. And anytime in an important room, I see you kind of lurking, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's IMN. I see you lurking at IMN.
True.
Right?
True.
Making your presence felt.
Yeah.
Or I was at Sean Terry's event speaking about installments.
Yeah.
You were there as
Correct.
well, right?
Yeah.
So like,
I try to get into the rooms. That's the key.
you are kind of a celebrity in the real estate world. So before we talk about what happened since August 22, let's just give a quick rundown, right?
Gotcha.
So talk about what has been your journey in real estate, because you've done $5 million in fees.
I think over. Yeah.
Right, it's pretty big number.
I was being conservative. Yeah, I didn't want to embellish.
Yeah, so let's real quick about your journey, like how you got here.
Yeah, I mean, so you went from the beginning, I guess.
From
we
the
can
beginning.
start
Just real quick, and then we're gonna talk about the
yeah,
transition, because
yeah.
a lot has happened in the last 2 years.
Well, I think I came into it around the same time, or you were already doing it, but a little bit after. I just heard about a bunch of young guys making a ton of money with real estate. It was Jalen White, Alex Sainz, Carlos Reyes, which now Carlos and Alex are good friends of mine. So I heard about them, so I reached out to them. Then I found out, where they learned it from. I'm like, okay, let me look into Sean Terry. I got his course and studied that, learned that. And it's interesting. A lot of guys say that it took them, 6 months to close a deal or 9 months to close a deal. But me, I mean, and I'm glad it didn't affect me, but I studied for like 3 months straight. And I did my first deal in 10 days. But I think that studying really helped. I think that's one thing that people just don't do enough of. They don't study. Because I get guys that call me all the time and they're like, hey, is this a deal? I'm like, dude, that's not even close to a deal. So I think that education factor is really huge, really huge. But yeah, I just heard about these young guys making a ton of money and wanted to improve my quality of life and my income, and just got into it. That's how I met you.
Right.
Went to Dean Graziosi's event.
Yeah.
And
just quick
so it
backstory.
started.
Quick backstory, right? So Vic, I met Vic when I was door knocking.
Yeah.
Right. I had my office off of 51st Street, and I'm knocking on all the doors.
Yeah.
See who does what.
Yeah.
And to see, if these are people that'd be interested in doing real estate with me. And I met you.
Just by luck, we
by
were
luck.
2 buildings apart, or 1 building. Or
Yeah,
we
you're
were
the next
connected.
building over.
We're next building. Yeah.
You're the next building over.
Just by luck. That's kind of crazy, right?
Right. Yeah. Right. And then you're like, oh, I'm trying to do this wholesaling thing. I was like, tell me more about that, because I know a thing or two about wholesaling.
Yeah.
And then you would talk about like, there's these guys on social media, Carlos Reyes, and what was it? It wasn't All in Nation. It was Cash Offers America. It was, I can't remember what his company was, right?
Yeah.
American Cash Offers, something like that.
Yeah. First Phase Investments, and then
Well, that was
National Cash Offers.
National Cash
Yeah,
Offers. That's what it was.
yeah.
Right? Like, have you heard of this guy?
Yeah.
These guys, National Cash Offers.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I've heard of these guys. Anyway, so that's how we got connected, and we deepened our relationship. You invited me to Dean Graziosi, which led to the
That was a good
podcast.
event.
It's a great event.
Yeah.
Which led to all this. So, talking about from selling bananas in Mexico,
Exactly.
to where you are today, how did you go from selling bananas
Yeah.
to doing a large volume of deals?
Yeah. Well, the banana business was a family business, and it paid well. I made 6 figures a year. It was a good job. I had my own office, but I just felt I could do more. Right? I felt I could do more. I had potential to do more. I wanted a bigger life. I had my own business in my 20s. I was part owners of a produce company. We'd supply restaurants and hotels with produce. So I was a business owner at one point, but then I went to work for my cousin as I guess you could say, consultant, because I've always had that entrepreneurial spirit, right? I always had that. Always wanted to do something big. But I ended up working with my cousin at the time. They needed help, and I needed the income, and so it just worked out. I had a fallout with a business partner at that time. He was 24 years older than me, so he was kind of letting me do everything. So it was just too much work for me. So basically, I just started working with my cousin, and we would private label bananas for Walmart and Whole Foods. So if you ever went to a Walmart or a Whole Foods, and it's an organic banana, that was probably our product. It was we private labeled for them.
Yeah.
So did that. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed working for family, but I hated the logistics side. And for the amount of stress, I'm like, okay, this isn't worth the money.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted more, and I felt I could do more. And then also too, the owners were my cousins. Like it was three brothers that they were all the owners. And to see them being multimillionaires and I wasn't, I'm like, okay, I got to do something else.
Right.
That's kind of how the journey started.
Yeah. And you had a nice space to yourself. You had maybe one other employee in there.
Yeah.
Right.
There was only 4 of us in that office.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in your office, you get to watch all the videos.
Yeah.
Right. I think one time I came to visit you and you were watching like a replay of one of Sean Terry's events.
That's probably right. Yeah.
Right. But you're studying, right? You're using that time you have
correct
to improve yourself. Right. So then how did you go from just getting started to selling to hedge funds?
Yeah. So that's kind of that's I guess a journey, but so I started wholesaling to cash buyers, and then I got a property that I purchased in Austin, and I just you always look at the buyers in the area, right? And there's this area where one of the buyers, I looked at the properties he was buying and I clicked on it via PropStream. The guy at that time they had 23,000 properties. I'm like, whoa, who are these guys? I'm like, well, let me call them. So what I did, I called them 3 months straight, and they would not return my phone calls. And it's similar because it shows the power of persistence, right? Because I also, for 3 years, I called on Whole Foods, and they would reply to the email like, oh, we're good, thank you. But they would never like move forward. But I knew eventually something's going to happen. Their vendor's going to let them down, or there's going to be some kind of issue, or there's going to be a breakdown. I knew that. You just got to stay in the game, right? So after the 3rd year, they're like, hey, let's talk. And so that's why I ended up getting the Whole Foods account, that's a huge account. Really, even to this day, it's a great client.
So you were calling Whole Foods corporate.
Yeah.
What was the title of the person you were calling at Whole Foods?
So you always go with the global head buyer. So you reach out to the head buyers. And if they ignore you, you go to the buyers below that. You're hitting up everybody.
And then for everyone that's listening, what is a buyer?
So they buy the product. They call them a head produce buyer. They buy the product for the supermarkets. Yeah. And so every commodity at a supermarket has a head buyer.
And the reason why I'm bringing this up, because like not everyone knows, like what is the buyer supposed to do?
Yeah. So they negotiate prices.
They just beat you the hell down.
Correct.
That's their job.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Find out all the people that are willing to sell their stuff at a stupid low price.
Yeah.
With a long of term as possible of paying them.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I think it's not unusual for Walmart to have a 1 year pay, right? You give me the banana today, and I'll pay you for the bananas a year from today.
Well, actually, in the produce business, like, because there's a PACA law. So by law, you have to be paid within 21 days.
Okay, so
that's to protect the farmers.
Okay.
Yeah, but actually, Whole Foods was a great client. They didn't really beat you up too much on price. They paid well. They took care of you. Yeah, because we had organic fair trade bananas, so they really value that. So they took care of us. Even to this day, they're great customers for my family. Yeah. Walmart was good too. They're, as you can imagine, a little more of a challenge. They will beat you up more. But I guess when they see you as a private label provider, vendor, they're easier on you. They're not as hard. It's not a straight commodity. It's like it has a Walmart label, it has a Whole Foods label. So they're like, hey, these guys are labeling our brand. So they do take care
They
of
treat
you.
a little bit differently.
Correct, yeah.
Right. Yeah. So like I know for a lot of from what I've heard, other people that I supplied, like their products,
Yeah.
right? Like pay in 30, pay in 90 is like good,
Yeah.
right? Sometimes it's paying 180, and
Yeah.
again, some people are pay in a year,
Yeah.
right? So that's what a buyer is, which is not that different than people we sell deals to.
Correct. Yeah, exactly.
So you had that experience from Whole Foods, and then you translated it to finding hedge funds.
Yeah.
So talk about how you translated that. to hedge
So
funds.
basically, when I found this fund, I'm like, well, that's a huge company. I got to do business with them. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to be persistent. So I did. I just called on them, every week for 3 months straight. At that time, they weren't really doing business with a lot of wholesalers at the time. So they said, get in touch with this guy, great guy, Joe Peterson. I reached out to him. He happened to be from Chandler as well. And we just developed a relationship. Luckily, we hit it off. And I started submitting all my deals to him. And he's like, hey, bring us more. And then kind of went from there. So that was kind of how it all started. And then as we would have conversations, he would mention other funds' names, and I would write those down and then reach out to them.
Yeah.
And so eventually, and then I joined a mastermind, Collective Greatness, with a bunch of friends of mine we still have it. We just had a call today. Great guys. What's up, guys? And we kind of shared our buyers. We shared our resources. We just shared our knowledge, our power. And it got to the point where we were submitting deals to 16 different hedge funds at a time.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Gotcha.
it really worked out. But that we really leveled up the hedge fund aspect of the business when we joined Collective Greatness, because we worked as a team to really target these funds. And there's some really great, smart guys in that group. It's a small group, but they're all smart, great guys.
Yeah. So when you were here 2 years ago, was kind of the door had just or the, I don't know what you call it, the bottom had fallen.
Yeah, the door started to close.
Right.
Yeah.
Like even though June wasn't the first rate hike of 22, it was the most impactful. Right?
Yeah.
Because rate had already gone up before then, but June it seemed like the world stopped.
Well, I remember being on that podcast and we were talking, and I said, yeah, well, if their offers are too low, I'm gonna take it down and I'm gonna hold.
I remember that, yeah.
And I was doing that, but I didn't realize how severe things were gonna get.
Yeah.
Like I was not like I didn't know it was gonna get that bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how have you pivoted, right? So you go from a guy who's slinging deals, hedge funds, right?
Yeah.
Like you got a deal in Phoenix, you call Vic,
No.
and Vic can sell to a fund for way more than a flipper is going to pay,
Correct.
right? Way more than an owner-occupant will pay, because these are just stupid prices what the hedge funds are willing to pay.
There's some deals I sold at 95 cents on the dollar. There's one deal, it was fully remodeled. I sold it, I think ARV was $350. I think we sold it for $375.
Yeah.
Because it was fully remodeled, so the above market value. It was nuts.
Yeah, so everyone got spoiled with this world, and you were one of the guys like,
Yeah.
hey, you call Vic if you got a deal.
Yeah, correct.
So then you started buying deals. So how have you pivoted in the last 2 years?
So a couple things. So we stopped selling the funds because there's a couple funds that are still buying, but their offers are they're still low. But there's a couple that are still buying portfolios, so I'm still talking to them. They're making offers on portfolios, but they're still not as competitive as we'd like. But we're working on a couple deals that might happen. We're working on a 100-pack right now in Tulsa. And then I just got another one in Florida. It's 112 properties. So we're working on that. We'll see what their offer is. Typically, they're a little more aggressive on those because it's a portfolio. But other than that, we're not really doing much with funds. So, you got to.
Why would they be willing to pay more for a portfolio?
Because it's just the volume. Like so you think about it. Like, what are they doing? They're accumulating assets, right? They're buying a lot of properties, right? So they have to go through the process of buying one and one and one and one and one. So that's a lot of work. That's they have their whole company, their whole system set up to buy properties one at a time.
Yeah.
So if they get an opportunity where it's 100 properties at one time, they're like, okay, it's just easier for them. They hit their quotas. It's just for them. It just makes sense to put a little more effort into it because it's such a big deal.
It's fascinating.
Yeah.
Usually, when you sell a portfolio,
Yeah.
people want a bigger discount.
that they still buy at a discount, but they'll be willing to pay a little bit more versus just a one-off property.
Right, but I'm saying even like more of a discount than that, right? So like I'm willing to pay 70% for a single family or for a single property.
Yeah.
I'm buying portfolio. I want to be at 60.
Well, it's true, but here's the thing. But they want that on their books. Like they want to increase their assets, right? So they're like, man, if we could get these 100 properties, let's try to bump it up as much as we can. And they'll tell me, hey, Vic, this is my max price. This is the best we can do. And then once I get that price, then I go back and I negotiate.
Sure.
So
you submit more or less a spreadsheet of properties.
Correct.
And then from there, you don't tell them what the homeowners are asking for.
I do. I do. I tell them like, hey, this is where we need to be at. But typically, when someone owns a portfolio, that's a smart investor. He's like, yeah, give me full market value. So then I'm like, okay, well, he's asking full market value. What can we do? Right. So that's what it is. So yeah, they do tell you their asking price, and their asking price is full market value.
But so it's a price that we already know that the hedge fund's not going to pay.
Correct.
Okay. So then how long is the underwriting, right? Because like we've seen, I haven't been involved in any major portfolio deals. I've been adjacent, right? Like friends doing it and so on.
Yeah.
I mean, they typically, it's like they can underwrite like 20 properties a day or whatever. So it takes like a week, and then you got to, after you underwrite it, and like, okay, let's double check the numbers because this is a big deal.
Yeah.
How long is it taking?
You're probably a great closer. You're spending tens of thousands on marketing, running appointments, and getting contracts signed. And we both know the only difference between where you are today and where you want to be are those contracts that you didn't get signed. If you had those contracts signed, you would have more money to spend on marketing, more cash on hand to hire the person that you've been looking to hire, and you wouldn't lose any sleep wondering if that one contract is going to close, which would allow you to have more free time to spend with your loved ones or working on your business instead of working in your business. Once you attend our 2-day event, you'll walk away with all the tools you'll need to create deep personal trust, overcome any objection thrown at you, and get homeowners begging you to buy their home. So you have a choice. You can keep doing what you're doing now and getting the results you've been getting, or you can join the hundreds of people that have attended and are simply crushing their respective real estate markets. To attend our event, go to closemysales.com/real estate sales, and I'll see you there.
How long is it taking?
Well, before it was like 4 or 5 days, but now it's taking about 2 weeks. But the reason that it takes longer now because there's a couple funds that I work with, a few funds I work with, but a lot of funds they all sell to each other, or if they're like, hey Vic, this isn't a deal for our fund, but let me reach out to these other guys. So if I've noticed like Open Door would buy from Amherst, and Amherst would buy from the Open Door, and they go back and forth a lot. So they're selling deals among each other. Like in Roofstock, they work with a lot of funds as well. So they sell to each other. So I submit to these guys like, hey Vic, this isn't for us, but I got these other funds that probably will buy it. Let me see what they offer, and then we'll go from there. Yeah. So that's kind of how it works.
So then, what kind of fees can you request off a portfolio, right? Because like we want to do 10 to 15. I think a lot of the hedge funds, they had like a cap.
Yeah,
a $15K on a property.
Yeah, so they cap you at a $25,000 assignment. If it's more than that, then we would double close on it. I think my biggest deal to date on a single property was $113,000. So that one I had a double close, but 113 on one house, that's really good.
Yeah, it's awesome. So on a portfolio,
they don't look at that. But I think our average is probably like $7,000 to $10,000 per property. So, which is pretty decent, right? Yeah. But on this 100 pack, then it's probably going to be $2,000 to $3,000 a property. It's not going to be that much, but still, I mean, if we close it, that's what $300,000, $200,000. It's still a good deal.
Great deal.
But yeah, with those we can't get as much. And a lot of times too, if let's say if the seller's asking 7 and they're offering 7.3, then it doesn't leave me a whole lot of room to negotiate, because on top of that they're going to inspect the properties and there's going to be concessions. Right. So I do try to get it cheap enough so I can absorb those concessions, because sometimes that kills the deal. So
yeah. So what are you doing now then to source more portfolio deals?
So those right now in our business, because those are they don't come very often. So I just put the word out, hey, if you run across a portfolio, because everyone runs across portfolios. So if you run across a portfolio, send it over, right? send it to us. But our main business right now is we're dealing with cash buyers, and we're doing a lot of novations. So we're listing a lot of properties on MLS with an attorney in fact. That's kind of our focus. That's the shift we made since the hedge fund stopped buying. We just went back to selling to cash buyers, and even cash buyers are more conservative, right, in this market. So we're having to list properties on the market, which is what's working for us right now.
Okay. So if anyone has a portfolio deal,
Yeah.
how do they send it to you?
Reach out to me. My IG is vic.heredia, Heredia.
Yeah.
Send me a message like, hey, I got a portfolio. Also, my email is deals@SFR, single family residential, sfrdeals.com.
Deals@sfrdeals.com.
Correct.
That's a good domain.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but you're not really spending a lot of effort marketing for portfolios.
No, I'm not. Because we target more certain markets. Like we like Arizona, North Carolina, we like Florida, Georgia, Atlanta. So we're hitting those areas. If we come across one, then yeah, we'll submit it. Yeah. But a lot of times I talked to one guy today, that's all he does. He does portfolios. Yeah. So I talked to him today, and I was interested.
Was he in
That's
Dallas?
all he does. No, he's in Florida.
Florida?
Yeah. So Texas is tough for portfolios. Well, for hedge funds in general, because property taxes are so high.
Yeah. Well, I was just saying that because I know Lance Wakefield in Dallas.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
That's his thing.
Yeah.
Portfolios.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've heard of him. I think I maybe talked to him once, but yeah, don't really know him too well.
Okay, so so you pivot to novations.
Correct. That's what we pivoted to. Yeah. The problem with novations is you can imagine it takes longer to sell them because they're on the market. So that's the one thing we were having a call about that today. How they're like, oh, we love novations. I'm like, I don't know. I kind of like working with hedge funds because it's faster.
Well, yeah.
You know what I mean?
All cash.
Yeah.
All cash, pay over.
Yeah, of course, yeah. But novations are good because you're also selling it at market value. But what I tell my guys, but even though it's a novation, you're going to list it on MLS. If it looks like crap, you still got to factor in a remodel cost. Yeah. Like sometimes some people get it confused, and we did that in the beginning. We would lock up properties, and we're like, oh, we can list on MLS, get full market value. But the reality is, you still have to factor in the rehab cost because someone has to pay it down the line. Yeah. So that's one tip that I think people need to be aware of.
Yeah. So novations is funny because like I watched Eric Brewer talk about it. You know, in the beginning when I first met him in April of 2020.
Gotcha.
Right. And I'm hearing him talk about novations. I was like, what is this thing? He's like, oh, we contract it and then we replace ourselves with somebody else. We novate the contract. I said, okay, that's cool. Like, how'd you learn about it? Yeah. He's like, I made it. I was like, no, seriously. Like, no. Yeah. How'd you come about it? Like, we all learn from each other. It's like, I made it. It's like, oh, okay. He's like, yeah, I've been doing all these. Like, okay, great. Let's put you on the show and let's promote the heck out of it. Yeah. Right. And it's a freaking dud. Like in 2020, no one cared. Right. And
correct. Yeah. Because the funds were buying. You didn't need to do that.
The funds were buying. And so I remember, I think he came on around because COVID was March. I met him in April. So maybe like August of 2020, I think he came on. And like I said, it was a complete dud. Yeah. Like, no one cared. And then the interest rates, which is the other side of COVID, right? Let's print all this money.
Exactly.
Now we have to pay the price for printing all this money. Yeah. And that's when novations became valuable.
Correct.
Yeah. So talk about your experience then in doing novations. Because you were saying it's not all sunshines, it's not all rainbows and unicorns.
Yeah, so we got into it out of necessity because we noticed cash buyers they're just buying properties too cheap. They want them,
Well, let's just be clear, right? All the cash buyers in Phoenix became worthless. Like they were just not.
Well, there's some good guys. Zach Keeps is a good dude. Is good. There's some, but even Zach's buying at a deeper discount.
Yeah, I like Z. I like Zach. Right? Yeah. We were on a panel together. Yeah. Right. I was on a panel. It was Zach Keeps, Brian Kingdeski, and can't remember the other person, but there was the four of us. It might have been Rich Wonders.
Gotcha.
There were four of us. Yeah. And they're talking about the power of relationships, right? You have to have relationships and friendships because these cash buyers, you never know where you're going to need them.
Yeah, that's true.
I completely disagree with that. Yeah. I'd rather buy it myself because the numbers the cash buyers acquired at the end of 22.
Yeah.
were really hard to make those numbers work with a homeowner.
No, that's true.
Right.
But here's the thing, like let's say if you're looking at 3 properties a month and the offer from a cash buyer is 65%, then yeah, you'll just buy or 70%, you'll just buy yourself and list it on the market, rehab it, etc.
We did.
But the problem is if you're looking at 20 properties a month, you know, some guys are looking at 30, 40 properties. I mean, you can't buy those. It's too much. It's too much capital, too much work. It's not doable.
You were clearly a better marketer than I was because I was not locking up 20
Gotcha.
a
Yeah.
month.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, like for me, you know, I think the whole deal, like the relationship, this and that, I felt like at that time, you know, the cash buyer is like, it's our turn. You've been abusing us.
Which is true. I agree with that.
You've been abusing us, right? Sight unseen, earnest money deposited. First one to deposit the earnest money gets the deal.
Yeah.
Right? Go dance for me.
Yeah.
And I felt like the cash buyers were salivating
Yeah.
on that. So like for me, I don't know. I could be too transactional.
Yeah.
I felt like the whole like be friends with your cash buyers thing didn't really work
Yeah.
in my favor.
Well, with me, because I come from a corporate background, and because in produce, it's so competitive because it's a commodity, right? It's very service driven. So when I talk to these big cash buyers, like a good friend of mine now, Kyle, down in Tucson, when COVID hit, I had a company that was doing all my dispo. They canceled like 7 contracts on me. I'm like, well, shoot, I got to get these sold. So I started looking through my assignments. And I'm like, and this guy kept popping up. I'm like, hey, bro, I called him. Like, you keep popping up on my assignments. Let's have lunch. And so, yeah, I think now they own like 1,200 properties.
Yeah.
And you should have him on your podcast, by the way. You know Kyle.
I know Kyle.
Yeah. And so I went down there, had lunch with him. And he's like, you know what, Vic, you're the only guy. Everyone calls me to either buy a property for me or sell a property to me. You're the only guy that offered to come have lunch with me. I was like, really? He's like, yeah. I'm like, wow. To me, that was like, wow, that's crazy because like that's not the way business is. It really is.
Right.
It is about relationships, right? And honestly, like we've made a ton of money together. We've done a ton of JVs. I do hard money lending as well. So we do a bunch of hard money loans, transactional funding. Like we made a lot of money with that relationship. So and because of that, if there's a deal now in this market, I'm like, hey man, can you do this? Can you pay more? You know, and so now I have other cash buyers. I'm like, hey, can you give me an extra $5,000 on this deal or do this? So if you have that relationship, they are open to paying more because they know if it's a good deal. You know, so for me, it helped.
Yeah.
But yeah, at one time it wasn't really necessary because the funds were buying everything.
Right. And Kyle's an interesting person, you know, because we sent a deal to him. Sent him multiple deals, and he didn't buy any from us.
Yeah.
Right. But one of the deals he did buy, paid $15,000 more.
Yeah.
With a realtor. I was like, that was interesting. Like, our team sent you the deal. You didn't respond.
Yeah.
Nothing. And then a week later, like, hey, who was the end buyer so we can add them to our list?
What's interesting? Go ahead.
I was like, it was Kyle.
Yeah.
He paid $15,000 more.
Yeah.
Because he used a realtor.
Yeah.
Versus just working with our buyers.
So that's really what turned us on to, because I heard it about novations, but you know, it just felt like too much work, right? And we had a property, we had it locked up. It was also in Tucson, and I think we had it at 113, and we were going to list it on the market. But I'm like, well, let's see if I can get some cash offers. Cash offers were 85, 95, 90, 100. I mean, nothing above 100, and our contract was 113. I'm like, okay, well, let's list it. So we list, and I paid like $2,000 or $1,500 to clean out the property because it looked like a mess. I figured with that we'd get more money, but still the offers were crap. We finally listed on MLS, and we ended up selling it to a guy that made us an offer, I think at 90,000 or 95. That same guy made us an offer because his agent sent it to him, made us an offer at 130,000. Yeah, after inspection, they ended up paying 127. Yeah. So I was like, whoa. So the thing is, I think the reason is on MLS, a realtor will see the deal and then send it to their buyer and say, hey, listen, look at this deal. It's a good deal. It's a good area. You get sold it at this price. So I think it carries more weight when it comes from their agent.
So are you arguing that realtors are valuable?
Some are. I have some really good realtors. I got one guy that does...
It's an unpopular opinion in the show.
Yeah. Well, I got one guy that does... Well, here's the thing. I talk to him. I'm like, hey, listen, this is what I do. You know, if you help me out, I'll get you all my listings, et cetera, et cetera. So I got one guy. We got 22 listings right now in Arizona with one agent.
Awesome.
So he loves me. We've done a ton of deals with another agent in Florida. And I tell them, hey, listen, can you listen in this market? They're like, no, I'm in Jacksonville. I can't do Orlando. I said, dude, just do it virtually. You just handle all my deals in the state. They're like, I can do that? I'm like, yeah. There's one guy even offered to pay his MLS fees in a different market. I said, I'll pay your MLS fees. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Because for me, it's just convenient to have an agent just
One
do
point of contact.
one point of contact to do the whole state.
Yeah.
So that really helps.
That's pretty smart. How did you find these realtors?
The one in Arizona was just a personal relationship. I've known him for years. He used to work for me years ago. The one a lot of them, we just look them up on realtor.com and we do a sort, find agents per zip code. And then we look at the ones that have the good. We look at the guys that have really good ratings, but very low amount of listings. So if they got 1 or 2 listings, he's hungry.
Right.
Like if I see someone that has 12 listings, I'm like, I'm not calling them because they're busy.
Yeah.
They're not going to give me attention. But if I know they have 1 or 2 listings,
You're the biggest client.
yeah. But also too, I look at solds. If they only have 3 solds, I'm like, oh, he's not a good agent. But if they got like 70, 80 solds and 2 active listings or 1 active listing, that's who I want to talk to.
Yeah.
So that's how I kind of sort who to talk to.
A little bit of nugget there for everybody here.
Yeah.
A pro realtor wholesaler in here.
Correct. That is not busy at the moment.
Okay, so
someone hungry.
Yeah.
You want someone hungry. That's the key.
So what were some of your surprises in doing novations?
The amount of headaches, I guess.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
'Cause
That was
not-
a surprise.
not a lot of
The
people
amount of
talk
headaches.
about-
That's it.
Right, because like we talk about like pivot to novations, and like I'm a very big proponent of novations. Right, like I said, I heard Eric Brewer talking about it. I heard Frank Cava talking about it. I was like, the world needs to know.
Yeah.
Right. But we don't do necessarily a great job of
Yeah.
all the warts
Yeah.
and all the
Well,
challenges.
yeah, that's true.
So
Well,
so still do them, but what should someone be prepared for if they're doing novations?
Well, I think the only positive is that you could get more money for the property.
Big positive.
That's a big positive. Agreed. But a lot of times we have to clean them out. There's a lot of times we have to do work because they don't qualify for FHA funding as is. I got to worry about the Binzer. I have to provide the clue. There's just a lot more paperwork. It's more work. It's more hassle. And then a lot of times we have to, like, I got one property now here in Sun Lakes that we had to repair the roof. Luckily, it had insurance, so that's being paid for. But I had to pay the deposit because she didn't have money. And then I have to fix some leaks, some water leaks, fix some drywall. I'm going to get that money back, but we got to put money into it because that's kind of when you do a cash deal, you're like, oh, no repairs, right? But if it needs too much work, now guess what? Now I'm doing repairs.
Right.
We file a memorandum to protect ourselves, but also too, it does help because when the seller sees that you're putting money into their property before it's sold, they're like, oh wow, like they feel like, okay, these guys they're putting some money and work into the property. So then at that point, they're a lot easier to work with.
Yeah.
So it's a positive.
Once you put money in,
Yeah.
it's a better relationship.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
It's a positive in that respect, but it's still a hassle you're having to do that. Whereas before, a cash buyer, you just take it as is, or a hedge fund take it as is, or do a concession, and you're done.
Right.
So I don't love novations, but it's a necessary evil.
Yeah, it's a way of life now.
Correct. Yeah.
What percentage of your deals are novations versus cash?
We're listing everything that we can on MLS, but then we will push it out on Investor Lift and to cash buyers and to see, because I prefer a cash offer than a conventional FHA loan, right? But even then, on MLS, if it's a cash buyer, we'll just say, hey, can you do assignment, or we'll do a double close on it. So on MLS, I even prefer a cash buyer, even if it's a little bit less, because it's just easier for me. And if it's a big difference, then yeah, I'm going to take the conventional buyer, right? But normally we'll go with the cash offer.
Yeah. Do you tell them what the other financed offers are so they'll come up?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, we got an offer at this. Yeah, 100%. You got to use that. You know how that goes, right?
I know some people go back and forth on it. Like I was always transparent. I was like, look, I got an offer at this. If you match it, it's yours.
Yeah.
If you don't, I got to go with the other guy. What do you want me to do here?
Yeah, 100%. You have to.
Yeah,
you have to.
Okay, so novations was a big pivot.
Yeah, that's the one thing I could say. It's a big pivot. It really made a big difference in our business. The problem is, and I've gotten this from a couple guys that I know that are doing really, really well. Ben Toth is a guy that I met in the last 6 months, which is a great guy. He does like 50-50, which is really smart. And we're trying to shift more towards that because at that point, you're not too dependent on what's on MLS. It might take 60, 90 days to sell, right? So I think doing some wholesaling is smart. It's a good way to go. And we're starting to do that as well.
Gotcha. So we talked about growing up in the corporate world.
Yeah.
But you also grew up in a challenging environment.
Yeah, I grew up in Maryville, so it was kind of like, I didn't feel it, but it was kind of the hood.
So I grew up on the east side of town.
Yeah,
right. I mean,
which is always a nice part of Phoenix.
Yeah. So I grew up on 44th Street in McDowell.
Okay.
Right. Which
that's okay area.
yeah.
It's not Scottsdale.
It's not Scottsdale.
But it's okay.
But it was kind of rough, but it wasn't bad.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
Right.
Yeah.
I learned Spanish, right? I knew how to swear in Spanish pretty well, right? In the 44th McDowell. And then my family moved to Chandler when I was 8.
Gotcha.
Right. So that's when like the sheltered life began.
Yeah, correct.
Right? There were no problems anymore
Yeah.
living in Chandler,
Exactly.
Arizona.
That's the life we're living now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Totally.
And then, you know, I went to Corona del Sol, went to ASU, lived that good life. Then I got my real estate license.
Yeah.
And then I'm starting like show properties in Maryville.
Then now you're back on the west side.
I was like, what the hell is this place?
Yeah.
Right? Because I never had to go to the west side.
Yeah.
Like the only time we go there was like 35th and Callenbach. We had, you know, Great Wall, right? The restaurant, the Chinese restaurant.
Yeah.
Right? But beyond that, we don't really go to 35th
Yeah.
on that side of town, right? And that's still not technically Maryville. That's we always got up and coming, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, I was reading, this is 2007, I got my license. And my first understandings of Maryville is I was reading like, there was this one like convenience store that was robbed like 4 nights in a row.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Right?
Yeah.
Like it's like, this is a very different environment. So going back to that, so talk to me, like for people that don't know, talk about Maryville. Today's show is brought to you by motivatedleads.com. The problem today with many lead sources is that you have to pay for the lead even if it's not any good. So you might be a couple of $1,000s into the month on marketing spend without talking to a quality lead. And the reason why that happens is because Google, the TV station, and the post office can't say for sure which lead that calls you is a motivated seller and which ones aren't. You can't tell Google, hey, this lead isn't any good and I want my money back. With motivatedleads.com, the leads come to you and you can determine for yourself whether the lead is any good. And if it's already listed, a piece of land, a mobile home, or from a wholesaler, you can simply request a refund. One of my biggest pet peeves is when a wholesaler clicks on my PPC ad and asks if he can put me on his buyer's list. With Motivated Leads, you won't have to worry about that anymore. Go to motivatedleads.com, tell them Steve Trang sent you, and get a $300 credit today. For people that don't know, talk about Maryville.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really realize it until like all of a sudden there's gunshots, you know, drive-bys, you know, there's a lot of gang activity. Actually, it was actually worse when I was in high school because there was a lot of gangs at that time. There was a lot of Bloods and Crips. So,
Talk about time frame.
Yeah,
when were you in high school?
That was back in 1991. So I'm dating myself. That was in 91.
Yeah, you're significantly older than I am.
Yeah, so I'm dating myself. So it was rough, but then they opened up that police station on 67th Avenue in Encano. There's a police station there. Okay. They opened a police station, and then that really helped. That kind of cleaned up the area. But it's still rough. But believe it or not, Maryville used to be worse. I remember once I went to a really nice restaurant. I don't know if you know Tutti Santi here in Phoenix. It's the best Italian restaurant here in town, in my opinion. No, actually, it is. Even my wife said so. Anyways, I went there once because I know the owners, and I was at the bar having some drinks, and I'm like, oh yeah, we got to go home. And then a couple says, where do you live? I'm like, oh, we live in Maryville. And then the wife was like, honey, did you hear they live in Maryville? I'm like, was that a bad thing? But that just goes to show how bad Maryville was, I guess. Yeah. So yeah.
So lessons in Maryville, lessons in corporate world, and how have you brought it all together?
Well, I think it's interesting. I think it's hustle, hustle on both ends. Like if you wanted to make it out of the hood and make money, you had to hustle. In the corporate world, same thing. You have to hustle, but also it's about relationships. It's like in Maryville or any poor community, you have a gang, right? And in the corporate world, you have a company you belong to, so you need those relationships. Gangs are bad, of course, but people join them because they want a sense of belonging and they want to feel protected, and because there's power in numbers, right? That's why nowadays we have masterminds. because there's power in numbers. Like you're able to exchange ideas, and in a ways you protect yourself from outside events because you have that knowledge that you're sharing. So yeah, it comes down to, again, hustle and relationships. I think that's what I learned, the key factor in both of them, right?
Did you join a gang?
No, never. To be honest, I always kind of knew like that was trouble, right? And I knew if I joined a gang, my dad would be disappointed with me. And on top of that, my dad was a big, strong guy, and he didn't take any crap from anybody.
Right.
Like I know he would have no problem slapping me around 10 times.
Yeah.
So that's why I never joined a gang. Right. Also, too, we had a very Christian background. So, thou shalt not kill was pretty easy. So, yeah, I just stayed away
I'm asking this
that.
question, like, leveraging, like, how did you, like, were you friends with these guys, but you stayed out of trouble? Like,
yeah, I was friends with some. I would fight with some. I got jumped by 7 gangbangers one time. So yeah, I've kind of seen the two spectrums. I had friends, and I knew what they could do, what they were capable of.
Right.
I had some friends that were killed in school. I had one friend, I was hanging out with him on a Friday. He's a super cool dude, and then on Monday I found out he got killed over the weekend. So yeah, you come across that. It toughens you up a little bit. Like you don't, now I don't scare so easily.
Yeah.
But even then, I wouldn't want my kid to grow around that.
Right.
But also when you're around that, you don't think it's that bad. But you just stay away from the bad guys. That's what we did. Like we didn't really. We knew them. I talked to them. You never disrespected them or like looked down on them, because then you could run into trouble. But I always separated myself from them. I had my own clique of friends.
Yeah. Do you feel like it gave you street smarts?
Oh, definitely, 100%. Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
100%.
So you took the street smarts, applied it.
Yeah, but also
Whole Foods.
Yeah, also too, like, so one thing, like, in the produce industry, my cousin, he passed away, unfortunately. He had, I think, 2,000 to 3,000 employees, and it was funny when he would meet someone, he's like, "Hey, Vic, be careful with that guy." Like he was so good at reading people. And I'm like, oh, come on, you're just being judgmental. And he just be careful. So he was so good at reading people. So and so you develop that. And it's true, like some of the guys that you knew were bad trouble in high school, like when you get into the business world, like you could tell like these guys are gonna be trouble. And I've seen it over and over again. It's you gotta go with your intuition a lot of times. And a lot of times being around those environments, you get that.
Yeah. So that makes sense. So reading people, you feel like you had a strength in reading people.
I think so, yeah. I think so. My wife says I could be judgmental, but I call it reading people.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of that. So, we try to, what's the word I'm looking for? Be understanding and empathetic.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there are people that you just like,
yeah,
I don't want you in my circle.
Yeah.
Nothing good can happen.
Yeah.
If we're running in the same circle.
Yeah.
Right? You stay your lane, I'll stay my lane.
Yeah, exactly. So you can tell a lot by the way a person acts, but also too, like you just see what they talk about. Out of the abundance of the mouth, the heart speaks, right?
Say that again?
Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So like what someone talks about all the time, that's what's on their mind. So someone constantly says, oh yeah, I'm greedy. They might say it in jest. They're greedy. They're going to be greedy. So,
Yeah.
you always want to watch what people say, because that tells you a lot about themselves, even if it's in jest or it's a joke.
Okay. So let's talk about your business as it stands today.
Yeah.
How are you sourcing deals right now?
So right now we're doing cold calling, we do texting, and we do PPC. And we have 3 acquisition managers, and then we have 3 lead managers, and then we got about I'd say about 10 cold callers. So
10 cold callers.
Yeah. So we're still doing a lot of cold calling. We have about 23 people total. So we got pretty good amount of people. So business isn't as good as it was during the hedge fund days, but
Not a lot of people are.
exactly. Well, so a lot of guys are out of business, right?
Yeah.
So, but we're still plugging it along. We're still busy, luckily, and we do think now that the interest rates should drop, I think things will turn around a bit.
Yeah. So who are you cold calling?
So we're calling. It's funny. I mentioned it earlier. Like the bigger your team, you could open up your list, right? Your data list, right? But I think some people get it confused. They think that there's no secret list, but I disagree. I think like if you're a one-man team or you got just 1 or 2 callers, Like you want to be real specific. You want to call absentee, out of state owned, and then foreclosures and probates, inherited. You want to be real niche on your data.
The people that the list that has distress.
Correct. Exactly. And then, the bigger your team, the more you brought in that list on. But that's kind of where we start. And then we brought it out. Yeah.
So any particular list that's your favorite list?
So number one, it's very competitive. Everyone hits it, but we get deals from it. So it's a foreclosure list. And then absentee, out of state first, and then absentee in general. Of course, high equity. A lot of people stay away from owner occupied, but I think owner occupied is good if it's 20 years owned plus on the lower end. I think right now you want to hit up lower end properties. Most people are not really buying higher end properties. Those are inherited probates are always good. The only thing is probates can be a lot more work, but that's pretty much what we focus on.
In what ways can probate be a lot more work?
Because then you might have to do the probate for the family or the person that owns the property. You might actually, if it's a pre-probate, like they haven't gone through the whole process yet, now you have to hire an attorney and you have to pay them to get them to close, et cetera. So, you're going through that whole process, and that could take time.
It can take time, but I mean, I like those because you have less competition, right?
Correct, yes. Yeah. No, 100%. And on those, you say, hey, listen, we'll pay your probate fees. We'll take care of everything. Yeah. And so that helps us to get those deals.
Yeah, we just closed one where we did all that.
Yeah.
Wild.
Yeah.
Having to keep them all together.
Yeah.
through all the bumps and
headaches. Yeah. So it's not easy, right?
It's not easy, but for everyone else that's listening, right? Like,
yeah.
I want them kind of, because we have people that listen that go from all different varieties, right?
Yeah.
People that are still trying to do their first deal and people that are doing 20 plus deals a month.
Yeah.
We have a whole swath.
Yeah,
of people
correct.
So because you have 10 cold callers, is it just 10?
Yeah.
You don't really target like any expensive lists then.
No, but I do know there's some companies out there that have really good data, like DataFlake, 80/20 REI, Aldantic, those guys. But I think
you're calling so many people, it doesn't really matter.
So that's number one. But also too, I'm pretty good at data. I'm pretty good at selecting data. Like we're pretty versed in that. I actually have people that I used to pull data for. So I just kind of know.
You hired a data scientist?
No, I've talked to one before. But no, I haven't hired one, but I've talked to one. I've looked at getting into that business. We might do that down the road. But no, I think I'm pretty good with data as it is. So it hasn't been necessary.
Okay. And so
if I thought I needed it, I would do it. But just the way I pull data, I've been doing it for 6 years now, right? I think I just don't need it. It's not necessary.
And then at one point, I don't know if you still do, you had a call center. Correct.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
You don't have it anymore.
Well, it's still there, but it's it's kind of a hassle because if someone there's too many factors. You're depending on their data, their skip tracing, then their lead managers. Like for example, we had one client. He's like, hey, this isn't working. I've gotten 246 leads from you guys, but I haven't closed on any. I'm like, wow. I'm like, I don't think that's us. I think that's your acquisition guy.
Yeah.
Right. But
there might be a sales problem.
Yeah, that was a sales problem. And then we had another one says, hey, you guys submitted this lead. We called him and he said he wasn't interested and he hung up the phone. And so then I called him and I did my pitch. Like, hey, how are you? How you doing? You kind of the turn on the charm, right? He's like, yeah, I'm looking to sell in about 30 days from now. And I'm like, well, do you need any help with that? Any assistance with moving, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? He's like, no, I'm good, but call me in 30 days, I'll be ready to go. And I told him, I said, listen, I called that same guy, and he's on board. Like it's and a lot of it is just the lead managers. Lead managers, I think, burn a lot more leads than people realize.
You think so?
Yeah, because lead managers, they're trying to disqualify. They're not trying to convert that lead. They're trying to disqualify it. Like, let's disqualify. In my opinion, most lead managers disqualify leads.
Really?
My opinion.
Interesting.
That's my opinion. I'd rather, like, if it's a lead manager, like, hey, listen, don't try to disqualify. Try to make sure they want to sell and they want to sell at a discount. Like, but get the motivation, right? So
it's interesting. So, like, I know, like, when I was training my own lead managers, I was always saying, like, if they are interested in selling, that's all I need to hear.
Correct. Exactly.
I don't need to hear price, time frame,
No.
nothing.
Yeah.
If they say, yes, I want to sell,
Yeah.
send it along to our acquisition
Yeah.
managers, right? And they're like, why? I'm sorry, for lead managers, they just need motivation. So cold callers,
Yeah.
if they say, yes, I'm interested in
Oh,
selling,
correct on cold callers. Yeah.
your job is done.
On lead managers.
Lead managers, if they said why they need to sell,
Yeah.
your job is done.
Yeah.
I don't care about condition. I don't care about time frame or anything else. It's like, yes, I need to sell.
Yeah.
That's it. Job's done.
Yeah.
Send it on to the acquisition manager. It's up to acquisition manager to earn it. So this is just speculation here. The lead managers are spending too much time disqualifying.
Mm-hmm.
It's because the owner of the company is letting the acquisition manager dictate the terms of the conversation.
Yeah, I think you're probably right on that. I think so.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, in our lead manager training, one of the things that we train on is how to talk to the acquisition manager. Because you have multiple clients, right?
That's
you have
smart.
to talk to the homeowner,
Yeah.
right? But you also have to learn how to talk to the acquisition manager because in any organization, the biggest diva is going to be the acquisition.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
Right.
Well, any salesperson is a diva.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Right.
I mean, that goes without saying.
So,
Right.
so yeah, I think, so it's interesting when you say that because that shouldn't be the case. So I'm wondering what is going on if most organizations, the lead manager are disqualifying too much.
Yeah, I think so. Well, it depends on the list too. Because here's the thing: if you got like a really motivated list, I mean, come on, if you got someone that's really good on the phone, like you're gonna be able to close them right, if it's a motivated list. So, so I'm like, hey, listen, just I want them to tee it up for the acquisition manager. So hey, find out their price, find out how soon they want to sell, because that really tells you. If they say I want to sell in 2 weeks, super hot lead. If they tell you a year, not so hot, right? So that for us, that's a critical question. I mean, I would prefer that if it's real to their asking price, because that tells you their motivation. Because at that point, if they say, well, I want to sell next week, price doesn't matter, right? Because that's going to be a deal,
right?
100%.
So we don't spend a lot of time working on that, and I agree with you, right? Like if they have to sell in 2 weeks, it's a deal.
Yeah.
Right. The only reason why we don't ask how soon you want to sell is because a lot of people will lie to you.
Correct.
Right. Like, oh, I don't need to sell. I'm in a rush. And like, that's the reason why we don't like that question for me is not as important.
Yeah.
As like, why do you need to sell?
Well, that's true. People will lie 100%. But we try to get that. If you get the 2 weeks, 10 days, then great. That's what we're looking for.
Yeah. Right. I mean, like the best, like one of the best deals I ever did was they're like, how much we want for your house? And they told me the price. I'm looking at the numbers like, that's 25% of market value.
Yeah.
I'll be there tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like, nothing else matters. But how often are they telling us like, I need 25% of market value?
Yeah. I my acquisition guys are like, hey, we're getting a lot of leads, but they're all asking full market value. I'm like, most people they're gonna.
That's their job.
That's what they're gonna do. They're gonna tell you. They're gonna look at Zillow, and it's like, well, I want Zillow, and that's full market value. And like, it's our job to work on those leads. That's just the way it goes.
Yeah. So now you got the cold callers, you got the list. Now you skip tracing them.
Yeah.
Talking about skip tracing.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, skip tracing it's a big factor, because if the data is bad, then forget about it. You're not going to contact people. But we've been skip tracing all our data for 6 years now, right? So that's a big part of the business. That's why, like the call center, we still have it. It's Platinum VAs, but we don't really platinumvas.com. But we really don't push it, because I don't like to deal with like someone that's new, that doesn't know the business. It's not pulling a good list. It's not using this good skip tracing service. That's why we don't focus on that. We're focusing more on our own skip tracing company now.
Yeah. So you created your own skip tracing company.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. And why create one when you could just use somebody else's?
Well, it started just because because we pull so much data, it's just a lower cost. So for me, I get it at a much lower cost. So that's why we started doing it. And then I know the quality of the data. Like, is it a good source? Where's it coming from? It's more control. So it's control of quality control, and price.
Okay. And then it's 15 cents.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, that's a regular price, but with the code, it's 50% off.
Yeah. So if anyone wants to go, for those of you guys who are watching, you go to skipfast.com, you get 50% off.
Correct. Yeah.
Right. So skipfast.com, check it out. 7.5 cents. Right. I think that's cheaper than everybody else.
Yeah. I think it's pretty competitive price.
So I'm not saying switch everything over, but like check it out.
Just test it.
Yeah.
Test the data. See how you like it.
Yeah. Do 100, do 1,000, right? Compare it to your existing list. See if it's any good. And if it's good, switch. If it's not good, then
Yeah,
don't use
exactly.
it.
But that's what we use.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah. So that's what you're using to do how many deals?
right now we have about 62 deals under contract.
You have 62 deals.
62, yeah. We have a little bit too many.
Yeah.
So
How are you here?
yeah, we're pretty busy. I'll be honest, just in transparency, we are having a little bit of a dispo challenge because that's a lot of properties. But we're moving them. I mean, they're moving. But those are listings too. So what happens on listings, they're going to be on the market longer. So we just expect that.
Right.
Yeah.
So 62
Yeah.
properties
Under contract. Yeah.
between two realtors.
No, those are four no, it could be five realtors.
Five realtors.
Yeah, five different
How many
markets.
markets are you in?
So we do California. So we do PPC nationwide,
Mhm.
and then we do certain states, and then we do cold calling in Arizona. We do cold calling in California. We do cold calling in North Carolina, Atlanta, and in Florida. And then we're targeting foreclosures in some hot markets, like kind of sleeper markets. We do that as well. So I did some research on what markets are really hot, but aren't like, it's not a market. It's more like a B or C market, but it's a hot market. Days on market are under 30 days. So I pulled that data, and then we're focusing on foreclosures in those areas.
A lot of work.
Yeah. I enjoy data though. I like it. I'm a little analytical, so
I don't think
I like
people
that.
would know that looking at you.
Yeah.
You're a pretty big dude.
Yeah, correct.
Intimidating.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about that much, but yeah.
I think you walk in the room, you got a presence.
Yeah. Thank you. I
Right.
appreciate that.
So, all right. So then let's talk about as far as then organization.
Yeah,
62 is a lot.
that's a lot. Well, I think we got too many in country because now everyone's doing a lot of work. But now I had four. I had four people on Dispo. I just hired a fifth one. That's really good. He's been doing Dispo for 4 years. So right now, and I think it was Danny McBrand. I don't know if you've had Danny on your show, but he does a lot here in Arizona. And he said, and it's true. But when he said it, it really hit. He's like, right now in this market, your dispositions has to be as strong as your acquisitions.
Yeah.
And that's really true. So right now, like we're building up the dispo side so we can move them as fast as they come in. Because right now they're coming in faster than we can move them.
Yeah. You have a conveyor belt
Correct.
where you have all the items are coming in.
Yeah.
But they're not moving it down the line.
Exactly. But part of it is the market too. The market, there is a slowdown. It's an election year. Clearly there's a slowdown. I've talked to some flippers. He's like, yeah, I got 35 properties on MLS, and we're not getting offers.
Yeah.
So right now there is, I think you talk to a lot of people, there is a slowdown. I heard Washington is hot. California is always hot. But there's some other states that they're seeing a slowdown.
I don't disagree with the slowdown.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, right? Like, you need to spend more effort than to like more intentional focus on the dispo side.
100%. Yes. I think right now, like, you got to focus just as much on dispo, if not more so, than acquisitions.
So, is your wife in the business?
Yeah, she runs our PPC campaigns, and she calls herself like a qualified VA, personal assistant.
Okay, so when she's running the PPC, do you mean she's actively involved in the PPC, or she's dealing with the PPC providers?
No, she runs the campaign. Like
She runs the campaign.
She learned how to do PPC.
Okay.
Yeah, she actually just had a call with Jacob Blank, and she was kind of giving him some tips on his. Yeah.
Okay.
So, but a lot of that was because we were in Nick Perry's 8-Figure Cartel, and so he taught us like how to set up PPC campaigns. He was really instrumental in that. Shout out to Nick Perry. If you can, I recommend his 8-Figure Cartel or 7-Figure Cartel. So he was very helpful in our PPC campaigns. And then before that, we learned it from Sean Terry,
Right.
which is big in the PPC as well. So we're in his Syndicate 9 as well. Sean's a great guy. So between those two, those are the two masterminds I'm in right now.
Yeah.
And between those two, that it really helped our business,
Okay.
and especially on the PPC side, because that's what they focus on.
Sure. So your wife's doing PPC.
Yeah.
Who's running operations?
So myself and Julio helps me with operations, and then our acquisition guys. I got Dominic and got Ramon, a couple other guys that are really strong. Julio is in Mexico.
So Julio is an integrator in Mexico?
Correct.
Okay. You have a sales manager?
Yeah, that'd be Dominic.
Dominic's a sales manager.
Yeah,
And is he closing as well or no?
correct. Yeah.
He's closing as well.
So what we do now, we kind of use the Wall Street model where you get like the JV closer, and then they bring in the main closer to kind of close the deal. So or junior closer, I mean. So we have the junior closers, and Dominic kind of helps get the deals to the finish line.
You have lead managers, junior closers, and the head closer.
Correct.
Okay, so he's not really a sales manager per se. He's really more like telling the junior managers what to do to set them up so that they can close deals.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Exactly.
Okay. Who runs Dispo?
I run Dispo, but again, we got Julio and they got 3 other people, now 4 that are so we have a Zoom every single day. We have a Zoom every day with sales team, and have a Zoom every day with the Dispo team. So I'm telling them, hey, this is what we need to do. Let's review these deals, like what's needed on this one, and this one. So we go through all our deals every morning. We discuss what we need to do, and then I just tell them, hey, just get it done. Just make the calls. At the end of the day, I tell everybody, listen, this business is, in any business, it really comes down to conversations. Like conversations is what gets you paid.
Yeah.
If you're having conversations with sellers, you're going to get paid. If you're having conversations with buyers, you're going to get paid. So just have conversations. Like don't get bogged down in the minutia of the this or the that or the comps or whatever. Just have conversations, and that gets us paid. So that's what we really try to focus on.
Yeah. And so let's see. And you're also working with you got some people that you've helped along the way as well. Kind of like get into the business.
Yeah, I've had a lot of guys that, and actually some guys that do coaching, believe it or not, that hit me up and ask me for advice. They're like, hey, what are your thoughts on this or that? Which I'm always open to, and I think because I've studied so many people, I think I have a pretty decent amount of knowledge in the business. I try to always learn from others, right? And so when you learn from others, you're open to sharing. But yeah, it's interesting. I had one guy call me. He's like, do you do any coaching? I'm like, no, not really. He's like, well, how much would you charge me for a coaching call? I'm like, it's a lot of work, right? Because you do it.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, I'll be like $500 for half an hour. And he's like, oh, okay. He goes, how much time do you think I need to really understand the business? I go, honestly, it's a lot of information. At least like 2 hours. I'm like, so if you want to pay me $2,000, you can. He's like, okay, I'll let you know. I'm like, all right. And so I didn't that's a lot of money for most people, right? And next thing you know, like 3 days later, he sends me $1,000. I was like, whoa. And then he's like, hey, I'll send you the other 1,000 next week. And then he sends it to me. I'm like, wow, okay, let's jump on a call.
Yeah.
And so we get on a call, and he's a young kid from Detroit, 21 years old. Shout out to Patrick. Patrick, how's it going? We did the coaching call, 4 sessions, and I think 45 days, he got 9 contracts.
Dang.
And we're closing on 7 of them. It was a portfolio. We're closing on 7 of them this Friday. So so I mean, but he hustled. So he took what I taught him in 2 hours, and then he hustled. And then also too, what I did, because what I said, listen, if you want from this point forward, if you want a JV on deals, I'll support you, but I'm not going to give you like free advice, just for free. But if you want, we could JV on deals together, work them together. I'll support you. I'll help you do the dispo. I'll tell you what list to pull, blah, 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 blah. And we'll work together. And so now we're working together on in the Detroit market.
Gotcha. Okay.
But it's super impressive because the guy's only 21 years old.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love the young hustler.
That's hustle, man. That's just hustle.
And then, so you are in, I saw you again, like we mentioned earlier, you were Sean Terry's mastermind.
Correct. Yeah.
So why are you in a mastermind?
Because you can always learn. I mean, that's the key to growth, right? Always learning, constant learning. One thing that, and I think I mentioned this 2 years ago, but I mean, for people that haven't heard it, my cousin, he was super successful, 2,000 to 3,000 employees. I think he was worth, I don't know, 100 million, 50 million. I don't know. We're worth a ton of money. He doesn't say, right? But it's a big company with that many employees, right? And we're having dinner at Shula Steakhouse, and I go, my cousin, like, how did you do it? How did you get to this level? He's like, and I'm waiting for the magic formula, right? He's like, you know what? He goes, number one, and I was waiting for like the secret sauce. He goes, I was humble. I'm like, what? He's like, I was humble. He goes, I realized I didn't know everything about the business. I didn't know everything there is to know. So I sought out everyone in my industry that I knew was doing well. Maybe not as well as me, some much better than me. I sought them out. I became friends. And I asked them for their advice and their feedback. And everything I learned from all those people, I applied it to mine. And he ended up becoming one of the biggest in his industry. And I was like, oh, shoot. So when I got into real estate, that's what I did. And that's what I still do. I'm always learning. It makes a difference.
You didn't have that growth mindset before you had that conversation?
I did. But once I heard how impactful it was to his business and success, I'm like, oh, that's it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's it.
Okay. So we opened the show talking about how you went from, selling bananas, selling portfolios to hedge funds. So right now, those portfolios you're selling to those hedge funds, are those existing relationships you had prior to everything kind of like falling apart?
Yeah, those are guys that were funds. So there's a couple funds that we would sell deals to, single. And then there's a deal when I said, hey, we got like a portfolio of 18 properties. She's like, oh, that's handled by our portfolio division. So then they referred me to him. And so I reached out to them and I started selling them deals. And then it slowed down. And so one of those guys left that company, started his own business. It's similar. He started his own fund. And the other guy went to work at another fund. So now it's two different funds, but they do business with all the other funds. So that's kind of how that relationship developed. Yeah.
So if someone wanted to sell a portfolio to a fund, step one, easiest shortcut.
Yeah.
Email Vic.
Correct. Yeah. Just send it to me.
Right. Yeah. And it was deals@sfrdeals.com.
Deals@sfrdeals.com. Yeah.
The second way is to bang the phones.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
It was LinkedIn. Is that as we were harassing these
people?
Yeah,
but you could find hedge funds on Google or LinkedIn, but the ones that buy portfolios, it's going to be hard to find.
I know, but I'm just saying.
Oh yeah, but you can do that
if you wanted to do it.
Yeah.
Like, what are some things they would have to do?
I guess just look on LinkedIn for like residential hedge funds and then reach out to them. It's you just got to contact a lot of people.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing you can do is just look like a lot of funds buy in, as we know, Phoenix, Atlanta, or a Florida market. So just do a search on PropStream, who owns over 1,000 properties, or you want to do 5,000 properties in Atlanta, and see who there's not many buyers, and see who those guys are. Those are your funds. And then what you do, you Google the mailing address, because the fund name is not the name of the company. That's just that's the fund name. So then what you do, you look up the mailing address, you Google it, and that'll tell you the corporate name.
There you go.
So that's the trick. I gave a little hack there.
Yeah. And for me, right, if this were my sole focus, what I figured out, and this goes back to my REO days, I was listing properties for banks, is go where they hang out, right? Again, you and I, we were hanging out at the IMN event.
Yeah.
Right?
IMN is a great place.
Go to IMN event, pay the price to be in that room, and get their business cards.
Yeah.
Talk to them, be friends with them. Now you have to dress nice.
Yeah.
Right? These guys are often wearing suits.
Exactly.
Right? Dress like how they dress.
Correct.
But yeah, like this is how you get business. You dress like them, you show up to where they hang out.
Yeah.
Build a relationship, and then you can, work together. So like what I was doing when I was young was taking them out to bars and clubs, getting them drunk. Wouldn't do it that way today.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe now we'll go to like City Hall.
Correct.
Or
take them to a nice spot.
Steak 44. Right? Capitol Grill, something like that.
Yeah.
But
exactly, 100%. And I'll be at IMN this year as well. So if anyone wants to stop by and say hello. But yeah, IMN is a great place to meet some of these funds, for sure.
I'm filming this video for the man himself, Mr. Ian Ross. The guy crushes. The guy's the best person in sales I've ever seen. I've invested elsewhere and I haven't got the same results. I've gone from being a seller, making 5K a month, to being a hybrid role, making 11K a month, to now be 4 months down the line from 5K to on a closing opportunity, inbound, full calendar, with the best opportunity, the best offer in my space. OTE is around 20K a month from month 2. So I've gone from 5K to 20K. If that's not a return on your investment, I don't know what is, man. If you're a salesperson and you don't invest in sales training, you're gonna get left behind because your job is to be better at sales. and sales training directly makes you more money.
My name is Lance McCann. I have recently switched sessions with Ian Ross. Those conversations with Ian has made me $50,000 in the past 2 deals that I've had. I was able to renegotiate, go back and renegotiate the original purchase price on one deal, and I saved $40,000, and I got another $10,000 off my other deals. Call Ian, give him a chance. You won't regret it.
If you like what you just heard and you'd like to have similar types of results, similar success, text CLOSE, CLOSE, to 33777, and we'll see if you qualify to join Advanced Sales Mastery. We are taking people from good to great.
For sure.
Okay, so someone wanted to skip trace, skip fast, skipfast.com. All right, they get 50% off.
Correct.
And then you are doing something with Rafael Cortez.
Yeah, so me and Rafael started a podcast. It's REI Big Shots. We've already interviewed Carlos Reyes. We've interviewed Zach Keeps, Robert Wensley with Investor Lift. So quite a few guys. We haven't pushed it yet or promoted it yet because we wanted to have like a slew of podcasts. So I think we're probably going to start pushing that in about 2 weeks.
Yeah. So I was on that list. Okay, fine, no big deal.
Well, we only have
whatever.
9. We only have
Hey,
9.
hey, look, we can have you on my podcast.
We'll have
I
you
can't
next
be on
week.
your podcast.
We'll have you next week.
It's all right, Vic. It's no big deal. My ego's not hurt, right? So, all right, Big Shots with Rafael Cortez. If you guys don't know who Rafael is, he's been on the show before. He's the CEO, Pulse guy. Really, really sharp dude.
Guy. Yeah, very sharp.
And I always, when I introduce him to people, like in person, like, here's the one that was stealing food out of my family's mouths, right? Because he was my competition.
That's funny.
Right? When it was me versus Sean Terry back in the day.
Oh, that's right. He was
Sean Terry's
our
acquisition guy.
Yeah,
Right?
that's
So
true.
I'm losing the Rafael in the living rooms.
100%.
Back
That's
in the
it.
day. So yeah, so you do all right Big Shots with Rafael, and you're doing an event in October.
Yeah, in October, I talked to Chris. I'm like, man, Chris, like with all Chris Iman.
Right. So if you guys don't recall, 2 or 3 episodes back, takedownfunding.com.
Yeah.
That's Chris Iman.
Yeah, and he was one of your first guests too back when you started as well.
Back in the day, yeah. He's one of the first deals guys that sold my wholesale deal.
Oh God. Well, he used to work with Jamil with Pace. The guy's done 12,000 deals. And I told him, I said, hey, Chris, like you should have an event, man. Like a high level event for a lot of these wholesalers that are younger, all right, not as successful. I think you do really well. He's like, yeah, well, let's put it together. So we're having a 2-day event here in Scottsdale at his Airbnb in October. And the guy's done, I think he has a $60 million fund. He's done 12,000 transactions in his lifetime. I mean, he's a hard money lender. He has a wealth of knowledge. So I'm just excited just to be there, and putting it on. I think it's going to be a great event. Going to learn a lot. So if anyone is interested in joining, hit me up for that as well.
Yeah, there's not a lot that he has not seen. Right, when he was here, we talked about it, right? Because he started in '99. Yeah. Right. He was co-wholesaling before co-wholesaling was a thing. Yeah. Right. He was lending, funding deals, doing the JV model where he'll fund your deal or he'll fund your earnest money. Right. Like he's been creative for a long, long time.
Well, he was also, I think, Jamil's business partner for a long time before, Jamil started.
They did a lot of collaboration. Yeah. I don't know the exact extent.
No, but I think they're business partners too before they did. I may be wrong, but that's what I thought before Jamil opened Keegley. But also I think he did like Pace's Dispo for like 2 years.
Oh yeah. Yeah. He just put a lot of Pace's deals.
Yeah, totally.
Well, it's nice, right? Because he would always fund it if he couldn't wholesale it.
Yeah, correct.
Pretty good wholesale partner.
Yeah, no, he's a great.
Right, hey, Vic, here's a deal. I need you to wholesale it. And by the way, if you can't wholesale it, can you just buy it?
Yeah, exactly. And he'll tell you, I'll take it. Yeah, he's a great guy. Yeah, for sure.
And then I have my own sales event coming up September 12th and 13th. You guys have seen the ads here. And Vic has honored us, right? He's going to be speaking.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so if you guys want to pick his brain at our event, right, September 12th, September 13th, Vic will be here for a few hours to, share any wisdom that you guys would like to pick his brain for. So is there anything that we haven't talked about today that we think the audience needs to hear?
No, I think we covered it. The biggest thing is just to provide value, right? And this business has changed my life and my family's life. So however I can help others. If people want to reach out to me, I really don't do coaching, but if someone wants to reach out and do a coaching call, I'm open to it. I mean, honestly, if I can just help, I'm happy to do it. And that's why I wanted to come on the show and make sure we provided value for people, right?
So are there any painful lessons you'd like to share that's happened in the last couple of years?
Well, it's interesting. It's the same lesson that I had learned
You had to relearn.
in the produce business, where your operational costs will kill you, and it's the same thing in real estate. In a turn down, you got to be careful because your operational costs will kill you. So you gotta keep that in mind and adjust as needed. Also, too, one thing that I've learned, that when things are going really, really well, you want to push on that. For example, we did really good with the hedge funds, but we could have done so many more deals if we had just invested more in marketing, more in sales, and just like really, really grown that when it was at full force, right? Because like we were like, oh, okay, this is nice, we're making money, and we're making money, and just like this keep making money, and yeah, we would push it, but knowing how good it was then, I mean, we could have just done so much more business.
You could have,
Yeah.
but there's always this thing, right? Things that I've learned is press when things are good,
Correct.
but also take chips off the table to prepare yourself for the downturn,
Agreed.
right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing that, like, that's a lesson that I had not learned until the last couple of years,
Yeah.
is that you want to press the advantage, right? And you want to leverage what you got.
Yeah.
At the same time, you also have to protect yourself
Yeah.
when the faucet just
Correct.
stops.
100%.
And that's where you're talking about operational costs.
Yeah.
Because that's where I got in trouble as well.
Yeah. I
was the
think we all
operational
have.
costs.
We all have.
Right. And we were, drinking our own Kool-Aid, thinking our stuff doesn't stink, right? Like everything we touch turns to gold.
Yeah.
And then you get humbled,
Yeah. Exactly.
right?
Yeah. I think we all got a little humbled in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. All right. So, guys, again, if you guys are interested in the skip tracing service, skipfast.com for 7.5 cent skips. Check out REI Big Shots with Vic and Rafael Cortez. Be on the lookout for his event in October
Yep.
with Chris Iman, who was on the show, I want to say 4 episodes ago with takedownfunding.com. And then we have our sales event, right? So if you guys are interested in that, make sure you check out the show description. There should be a link in the description. And any last words we'll leave everybody with before we end the show?
I think the biggest thing is when I do a presentation, I always have a picture of Neo, like in the Matrix. The key, like, to being successful is like, it's not gonna happen until you believe it can happen. Like, you really have to believe in yourself. You have to know that you're able to figure it out, and while you're trying to get to that level. But you just, it's like Neo, he became the one when he believed he was the one. So it starts with self-belief. You have to believe it's possible, that you can do it. And then you got to put in the work, and you got to educate yourself.
Yeah, you can't just put the pictures on the wall.
Yeah, but I think it starts with self-belief. Like, until you change your self-belief and how you see yourself, your life won't really change.
So how does someone go about doing that?
For me, it was associating with people that were more successful than me, because then you're like, well, if they can do it, I can do it, right? Visualizing is great as well. But a big part of it is just getting in a lot of rooms with a lot of people doing better than you, masterminds, events, because then you start meeting all kinds of people, and they're like, man, they're killing it, and you get to know them, and they're like, well, they're human just like me. And so that starts to shift your mindset a lot. That makes a big difference.
Yeah, actually, I think that's probably the best advice, is getting in the same room with the people doing what you want to do.
Correct.
So many people are like skeptical,
Mm-hmm.
and you can't feel that when you're watching YouTube,
Yeah.
or looking at someone's Instagram.
Yeah.
You can see it, but your brain still has this barrier. It's like, but is that real?
Correct.
But you sit in the same room as Vic.
Yeah.
You sit in the same room as Sean Terry, as Chris Iman,
Yeah.
Nick Perry. Your belief system changes,
Totally.
right? And that talks to your subconscious, which now gives your subconscious gives your conscious the permission to believe in yourself.
Yeah, because you have to educate yourself. You have to learn the business. Like we talked about it many times. You have to educate yourself. But like me, my education, I didn't seek it until I found a couple young guys that were making money with it. And so at that point, I already knew it's real. Proof of concept was, hey, these guys in their 20s are doing it. I could do it. So then I sought the education and the knowledge to put it into action. But I already believed it. Whereas sometimes you get a course and you're like, I'm going to study this. I wonder if it works.
Mhm.
And then since you kind of wonder, you don't really try, and you don't succeed.
Yeah. And
So-
you give yourself permission to procrastinate.
Correct. So
Yeah.
I think,
wonder will kill you.
yeah. So if you get a course, like get around the rooms as well, because that's going to make a big difference in your mindset. A lot of times, a lot of courses work, but people just they don't believe in them, so they don't take action and they don't succeed, or they take half-assed action that gives you half-assed results.
Yeah. And I used to think the mindset was a joke.
Mhm.
It's not that big a deal. Realizing at my older age
Yeah.
how important it is.
Yeah.
Right? You have to have the belief system. You have to have your subconscious in alignment with what you say you want.
Yeah.
Because you can say what you want, but your subconscious doesn't believe it's possible. It will sabotage you.
Exactly. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.
Shout out to Steve Trang. Jump on the Steve Trang. Disruptors.